Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Hello everyone, welcome to Road to Cheltenham. I'm raring to go this week.
What was wrong with last week?
You know, I was clinging on last week.
You were building up last week's show for God knows how long.
Is that what it felt like to you?
Well, yeah.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We've got loads to talk about this week. Let's start straight away by diving straight into the news that Harry Cobden is taking over as JP McManus's retained rider in Britain and Ireland from May. My question to you is, why now? Why is it announced now?
Me personally, probably was to do with the up in the air nature of would Nico be back or would Nico not be back. There was rumours for however long that Harry Cobden was getting the job, but last weekend when it wasn't clear whether Nico was going to be back or not, I'd say they were thinking, well, Harry Cobden's going to have to school John Bon, and he ended up riding John Bon, but I would say that's where the announcement came from myself. Looking at it, why now as in regards giving him the job? Well, I think when you look at the big jobs, the majority of the big jobs, outside of Jack Kennedy and Sean Bowen, obviously, but I'd say a lot of guys are on the back nine, Lydia, and more of them are closer to 40 than they are 30.
So you're sort of seeing this as part of the turning of the wheel of time?
Unfortunately, it catches up with everyone. Got me, got AP, got Dickie, gets everyone. Time does.
Yeah.
That is life, but Paul is 35, Harry Skelton's 36, Nico's 36, Mark Walsh is 39. There's four lads that side of 35, and I'd say it was JP grabbed Harry Cobden before someone else did.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at that amount of talent, and, you know, Paul Nicholls' yard not operating at the level it was when you were there. And
that's cyclical too. The wheel turns, who's to say? I mean, he has no drama this end. I know he's won, but you get 3 or 4, the wheel turns back for you. And when you have novice hurdlers, you have a chance of getting Gold Cup horses.
But you mentioned all the jockeys in terms of the turning of the wheel of time. How about the trainers, particularly on this side of the Irish Sea, I'm thinking? Because we're used to Nicky Henderson and Paul Nicholls dominating. Is that the pattern of the way things are going now?
I know. I mean, look, even from Dan to Ollie Murphy to Ben Pauling, Jamie Snowden, and there's even more. But there is more strength in depth in the training ranks, and they're all youngish men that are building their careers and getting towards where they should be in the peak of their careers. So, no, the wheel is turning, there's no doubt about it, but that's cyclical.
And how about the squad that Harry Cobden will now be riding? I think lots of people have said it's the sort of deepest, best quality squad that JP McManus has possibly ever had. It's also very different from Barry Geraghty's time, from Tony McCoy's time, in terms of the number of trainers that it involves, particularly in Britain, probably.
Yeah, and it probably was always a huge spread on trainers in Ireland. So, and that is a challenge within itself. I mean, you're riding for one owner, but you're riding for an awful lot of trainers, and every trainer likes their horses ridden differently, and you know, he'll have to learn and develop that, but he will, and he'll enjoy it. I mean, to me, it's a great job. I mean, what's he going to be? He's going to be at all the big meetings, riding horse with big chances.
I mean, what would you want?
Exactly, and look, I think it's a wonderful job, and I'd say he was dead right to take it.
And how do you I mean, you juggled Paul Nicholls and Willie Mullins, but that was just 2 major bases, and 2 lovely major bases to juggle. But it's going to be a lot of travelling for him, isn't it? A lot of things to slot into place.
Yeah, it will. But I mean, it'll only be for certain periods of the year. And look, he'll do it. He'll enjoy it, and it'll be a challenge for him, and it'll probably make him a better rider too.
Okay, and I've got to learn all the Irish tracks as well.
I had to learn all the English ones, and so did Barry Geraghty, and when AP left England to go to Ireland to go to England, he'd learn them too. That's
part of the process.
It is.
Yeah, so very interesting, and of course we'll see Harry Cobden in action this very Saturday, as Ruby's already mentioned, on board John Bon in the Clarence House Grade 1, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But there is loads to talk about, and maybe you might want to talk about Harry Cobden's new job. Amongst other things, let's hand over to Josh Stacey. He's in the social corner to prompt you as to what we'd like to talk about.
Yes, this week is all about the novices, the novice hurdlers, the novice chasers, and we've even got Ruby Walsh to talk about juvenile hurdlers. It's going to be very exciting. We want to know your thoughts. El Kairos, the favourite at the Supreme, were you impressed with him up until he came down? No drama this end. Can he win the 2.5 mile race for Paul Nicholls? It's fascinating. Romeo Coolio, which way will he go at the Cheltenham Festival? Let us know your thoughts on X, on Facebook, and on Instagram. We are going to be monitoring it over the next 45 minutes. Get them in. Hashtag Road to Cheltenham.
And Josh has already told me he's got a great response as well, so thank you for that. But keep them coming during the course of the show because we are live and you can add to the debate. Before we get on to looking back on the novices over fences and hurdles and the juveniles, because that is the point of the show this week from the whole festive period, we need to have a look at the Grade 1 non-novice entries for the Cheltenham Festival, which came out on Tuesday of this week. And that, of course, means the champion hurdle, the mare's hurdle and the stayers. It's the equal lowest champion hurdle entry. Like last year, just 16 horses entered. And for the first time since 2021, Irish-trained entries haven't outnumbered the Brits. Mares' hurdles entries are relatively stable. That's over the last 4 years. We've got 2 fewer Irish entries than last year. It's the second lowest stayers' hurdle entry, jointly with 2014. 2023 was 1 lower. Only 14 Irish entries in the stayers hurdle. That's down 33% compared with last year. The lowest is 2014. We've got 62 individual horses entered, 4 fewer than in 2025. It's mainly the mares overlapping, but we do have 1 entered in the champion and the stayers. Step forward, the truculent Ballyburn. Now, Ruby, I was fascinated by... Do you like my use of truculent, though? He is truculent, that's the word. I mean, that's being polite, in fact.
What does truculent mean?
It's just sort of, you know, awkward, you know, sort of in a bit of a mood, not cooperative. Ballyburn. You'll see it in the thesaurus next to the word truculent.
I thought you were talking about me.
Awkward. Let's move on to the mares, shall we? And I was struck by the overlapping entries, which we knew was going to happen, but it's interesting that there's a couple of mares who we've seen novice chasing already this season have got mares hurdle entries, Cargizi and Jade de Gruzy. Is that giving Willie Mullins wiggle room? Oh yeah, but to me, Lydia, they were always going to be entered. Benny de Juve, Vroom Vroom Mag, they'd both been chasing before they ran in the mare's hurdle too. So if you're not in, you can't win, and it's cheaper to put them in now than supplement them. Very much so. Lossie and BDA, obviously in both the champion and the mare's hurdle, meeting up first in the Irish champion hurdle. Should mention Flooring Porter while we talk about the stayers hurdle. The 2021 and 2022 winner will be coming back in the Cleve. Gavin Cromwell saying that he wanted to go to a left-handed track, Cheltenham, rather than the Galmoy at Goran for that horse. He hasn't counted out, you brought this up, going over fences with the horse this season. We'll find out more in the Cleve. Let's move on to another matchup on Trials Day, and that comes between Sergino, the new lion. This we knew, but we might be getting Poneros as well for the Triumph winner. Yeah, probably the conditions being a Grade 2 do suit him. He will have turned 5. Obviously, he didn't run him prior to Christmas as a 4-year-old, but I think he's a good step up in form to make Lydia to get to the level of Sergino and the new lion myself. Obviously, Sergino will be the one carrying the penalty there. The new lion fell in a open grade 1, so he'll have his half novice penalty, I think is all he'll have. From memory, looking at the conditions, so be a great race, but I would say Poneros is a good bit to find to get to their level. Okay. We've got Work Ahead, who was 3rd favourite for last year's Supreme. He's been entered in the champion hurdle. He returned sore after that run at the festival. We haven't seen him since. Henry de Bromhead, the dual winner of the champion hurdle, was talking about a January return. And we've got 1 in and 1 out of the champion hurdle that we weren't 100% sure on. William Money. Barry Connell has waved the white flag. He does not appear amongst the entries, but Constitution Hill does. And some people were thinking maybe he wouldn't, but he's working his way back towards that Cheltenham target. He's got a date with the flat at Southwell, a 12-furlong novice on the 20th of February. And with that in mind, Ruby, I was wanting to have a look at his pedigree for flat racing, and I'm very grateful to Jane Mangan for this, because the more I dug into this and tried to sort of research it, the more I knew less than I thought I did. So here are the facts, and Jane Mangan has helped with that. There is Blue Brazil, Constitution Hill's sire, and you can see that from his progeny, 108 horses have run at up to and including 12 furlongs. and 470 at 12 furlongs and above. And the strike rate is obviously very, very different compared to the two. If you look at the dam side of the pedigree, 4 generations on the dam side, all unraced on the flat, none with progeny who ran on the flat. But Jane does make the point that Queen of the Stage is by King's Theatre, and that might be where Constitution Hill gets his pace from. Any comments, or do you want me to move on?
Well, moving on.
OK, let's move on. And we are moving on. When you rejoin us, we'll be talking about the novice hurdlers. Right, we're going to start at 2 miles and work our way up in terms of stamina. So let's have a look at the Supreme Novices hurdle, the Sky Bet Supreme Novices hurdle market. El Kairos is the 4-to-1 favourite ahead of Talk the Talk. 2 horses that hit the deck over Christmas top the market. Old Park Star runs on Saturday 7-to-1 and 12-to-1 and upwards the rest. Let's look, Ruby, at the maiden hurdle won by Murat, in which El Kairos was surely coming to win.
He looked like he was, and Lydia popped out down the inside behind Dr. de Menil of Willie Mullins. As Murat had been a bit keen prior to this, and he made the run an ace as well. He rocked on. El Kairos, he jumped reasonably well. Now, Murat went a decent gallop, but he was slowing down from a long way out, and we can see that in the graph in a minute. But they were going pretty steady as it turned out of the back straight. Jack Kennedy was following Danny Mullins in 4th. Danny was in 3rd, and he shows this electric turn of foot off the bend here when Jack switches him out, and he does look like a flat horse here as he starts to quicken. He really lengthens, rubbers down to the last hurdle, and then it's like watching a motorbike falling over from a speed wobble, isn't it? He just completely is going too fast and ends up wobbling over. He almost stands up, but it's just speed that catches him, and he's very, very unlucky. He gets in, loses, look, tries to save himself, and I'm gone. How unlucky was he? But thankfully he got up. He looked like he was going to be really impressive, and it was going to be an opening double on the card for Gordon. Murat does win. Dr. de Menil looked like he wanted a bit further, but El Kairos was going to be impressive.
I was quite surprised that Murat for Conor Quirk and Peter Lawler was able to hold on, given how hard he went early on.
I was disappointed with Dr. de Menil. Probably did shape like he wanted further.
But yeah, I think El Kairos was really unfortunate. Now, he was a bit roughhouse. He ran really well when 5th in the Champion Bumper. He was then with David Maxwell. He was part of that dispersal sale. He was hanging left going into that hurdle. Did that contribute to the problem? I'm thinking about the way he threw away a bumper at Punchestown by hanging left as well at the end of last season. Does he have a quirk?
He drifted a bit left. I didn't notice it on the rest of the hurdles. He did go to the mid of the track and ended up back on the inside, but he was in front flying to the last. He went a bit left for a bit of room. I'd want to see him again before I'd say he has a quirk myself. He
was your favourite performance of the whole festive period, wasn't he? The one you picked out?
I thought he was. I thought he was going to be really good. But then I started watching Ballyfad back.
OK, well, 30 minutes earlier, this happened.
Yeah, and he booked out to make the run, and now, because there was no Murat in this race, he doesn't end up going as quick, and he's leader Dallier behind him in the stripes. But actually, Ballyfad, who did jump to his right all the way, and it was quite noticeable at some of the hurdles, he built the speed up further from home. And again, I thought he was impressive off the bend. He had good bumper form. They queued up behind him across to the second last hurdle, but off the home turn, when Jack opened them, and he'd opened them a long way before at the second last hurdle, so he sprinted up that rise into the straight in Leopardstown, whereas Jack had let El Kairos get over that rise before he went for him. So I thought this was really impressive from Ballyfad, and I loved the way he went to the line. Leader Dallier in 2nd was well thought of at home, and he was ultimately a little disappointing, but this fella, I liked what I saw, and I think overall this was a fairly solid performance.
It was interesting afterwards, both Gordon Allett and Jack Kennedy said that they were a bit worried that he wouldn't have the pace enough for 2 miles, particularly on that kind of ground.
Thank God he had it there, and he showed a good turn of foot. He clocked up 34, 35 miles an hour when he was quick then onto the bend. I'd say that both him and El Kairos, I'd say they're 2 really, really good novices.
Yeah. Tend to agree. I want to draw attention to Gone Wild, who I thought made a very promising hurdling debut further back down the field. Let's have the comparison. Ruby mentioned the graph, and this just shows how Murat, El Kairos and Ballyfad all went. Murat's in the yellow, El Kairos in the blue, Ballyfad's the red. Yeah,
you're going from 28 to 32 miles an hour early in the race, but you see where El Kairos drops off in the middle of the race. Ballyfad slowed down as they crossed the road to the middle where he was jumping right, but he started to quicken a good bit earlier than El Kairos, and all right, he was slowing. We don't know what El Kairos would have done if he stood up. I can't imagine he was going to keep quickening into the line. Maybe he would have, but I did think Ballyfad was good, and he went at it a good bit further out.
Yeah, he did. I thought it was a wise move of Alcaraz to drop off the pace that Murat was setting. We had a Grade 1 over this trip at Leopardstown over the Christmas period as well. It was the future champion novice hurdle. It was won by Skylight Hustle. Again, all the talk afterwards, pun intended, was about the horse that fell at the last.
Yeah, and the Devon on Font, Love Me Tender, and the Passing Wife on the front end here down to the first hurdle. Paul was intent on being prominent on the Devon on Font, and he went a decent gallop early, but he got a halt on him kind of down by the third hurdle. But that said, Skylight Hustle, Talk to Talk, and Carrickmore and Spruce are the three at the back there. They're going to end up, would have been first, second and third. So maybe they did go a little bit hard. Now, Talk to Talk's jumping hadn't been great on debut. It was a little better at Fairyhouse, but it was sticky here again. He made a couple of mistakes throughout the contest. They were well bunched as it turned out of the back straight. Now, Jack and Sam Ewing to get a great run here. Jack slips through on the inside of Keith Donoghue. Sam Ewing gets onto his tail, and they slip through on the inside of the whole field, with Declan Queally following them on Carrickmore and Spruce. But to me, Talk to Talk had come to win. But again, he had jumped a little novice at times, gets too high behind there, and Gravity wins, and Skylight Hustle comes home in front. Interestingly, Gordon and Jack think Skylight Hustle wants to go up in trip, but Talk to Talk, he needs to brush up on his jumping. That was his third start as well. You would just be slightly worried about it.
I totally agree. I would differentiate between El Kairos, who I think was really unlucky. You know, there might be some quirks, so it may be, but at the moment I'm just filing it wholly under unlucky. Talk the Talk, that was coming for me. He's a naive hurdler, I think, isn't he?
Just doesn't look natural at it.
No. A bit of a guesser.
Not even a guesser. He's careful, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
He's always trying to be careful, and when you're going fast, it becomes hard to be careful.
Skylight Hustle, Jack Kennedy was saying he hadn't gone for anything. Like you, I think Talk the Talk would have beaten him had he stood up. Carrickmore and Spruce, though, is a strong stayer, and he came away from her to the line.
Most certainly did, and Declan Queally is a couple of really good novices, hasn't he?
How about the Clasutton too? Love Me Tender, who's returning from a break. Could he do better in Le Devant Enfant?
Could do Le Devant Enfant, probably change the tactics and maybe some headgear, but as in earplugs or something like that. But he was just too keen and was ultimately very disappointing.
Looks like a chaser, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's not going to go chasing this year, so he may do something now over hurdles.
Yeah, he's going to have to work it out. Right, let's head to Limerick and talk about King Grasco Gray's win. Yeah,
I thought this was just a deep maiden hurdle for Limerick. It easily could have been at Leopardstown. Now, Stonking ends up running down the outside in the red cap and making sure this was a pretty good gallop. Unflinching was the grey, but I started the joke in third, has subsequently won. You had Kaiser Ball in fifth beside King Grasco Gray, and Shuttle Diplomacy was behind him in the green cap. Now, they did get racing. I started the joke, made a mistake in the middle, hurl down the back, and both him and Kaiser Ball got racing against Stonking as they were climbing up to where the third last hurdle used to be. It used to be a hurdle there, and God only knows where you took it out and it should be put back in. There's the second last. I started the joke, but I was impressed with King Grasco Gray. Now, he was in receipt of £8 off the three horses around him who were all bumper winners, but I thought he jumped well, and I honestly thought that this could have been a Leopardstown maiden hurdle run at Limerick. I think it was a deep race and there'd be plenty of winners out of it, and I started the joke, already has done.
Yes, at Punchestown, and the runner-up was third in the champion bumper at Cheltenham as well, Shuttle Diplomacy, wasn't he? So, yeah, I can see that being a deeper race than usual. Talk about missing hurdles will continue during the course of the show. You wouldn't expect anything else, would you? The Reverend from Willie Mullins used to be with Willie Haggis on the flat and now wins at Cork. Yeah, and was sent down to Cork where there is a bit of jumping. 10 hurdles in a 2-mile hurdle race in Cork. If you'd watched this fella at home, you wouldn't have thought he'd have jumped as well as he did. And he was quite keen in Close Sutton, but he settled really well in Cork. Showed a bit of power and jump there. Wasn't a strongly run race, and nor was it a deep race. That was his only real mistake with a peck. Now, he was low and rapid here. Willie Mullins loves that, but if you're up on his back, it's not quite as nice as it looks. And again, at the last, he's really, really fast. Loads of gears, highly rated flat horse. Got plenty of experience in Cork, and it was a decent start from him. But he'll need to be a good bit better than that to be competitive in a good race. He will. 102 he was rated on the fat for William Haggis. They won the Old Borough Cup. And you would expect a horse rated that highly to be able to do that at Cork, wouldn't you? Absolutely. And the way he schooled at home, was he brave like that? Yeah, quite. Yeah, takes him on, quite rapid. But, you know, he was good in Cork, he was. OK. He's related to Sober, who won the Moscow Flyer. There are just 3 runners. And this is a farce of a race, it really is.
It's just tactics, isn't it? I mean, Sober drops in behind his stable companion Free Spirit, and Rose Exile has to make the run, and Sober jams on at the first. Looked like he was going to refuse for a second. Free Spirit was a bit lucky at the third hurdle here, but Danny stands way off and just gets there. And Rose Exile, he's not a front runner.
He hates it, doesn't he?
Yeah, but like Danny and Paul were going to take him on, were they? And Jack had to roust him along every step of the way, and they just sat behind him, and it turned into a dash. Sober did warm up in his jumping and jumped a hell of a lot better than he did at Killarney, and Paul couldn't even, I'd say, keep behind Jack for as long as he wanted. Good jump at the second last, and he was galloping over him off the bend. Quick, I thought, that said, Lydia, I did think Sober quickened quite well. Here's a good look at the last here, and I thought Road Exile's maiden hurdle performance was decent. It was a much different race. He was taken on way earlier by Copacabana, and it became a test in Navan. Punchestown just didn't suit him on the day. Sober jams on again at the last there to have a little look and quickens away nicely. Free Spirit ran on, but look, he got a quote, I think, at 20-1 for the Supreme after it. You've no worries about him staying. He's gotten extreme distances on the flat, and his jumping is getting better.
He's a Queen Alexandra winner.
Yeah.
Rated 111. I don't know. It's just, I mean, you told the story of the race. It was just a bit weird.
It was tactical, isn't it? But that's races are supposed to be.
Yeah. Do you still retain faith in Road Exile? We both liked him.
Yeah, I wouldn't give up on him. It was just a race that was completely not run to suit him. And look, horses are herd animals. Some are leaders, some are followers, and it's safe to say he's a follower.
Up in trip or a fast run race over that trip?
Ultimately, probably going up in trip, but he would want a really competitive 2-mile race.
And will Sober's jumping stand up?
It's getting better. It's going the right direction, so I'd say, yeah.
OK. Let's take a look at Willie Mullins' recent record in the Supreme. I just thought this might be interesting because the look of the market sort of has the look of, you know, waiting for its hero to come. Kopek de Bordes won at 4-6 last year, having won at the DRF, the Brave Inca. And the races that are highlighted in the yellow are the graded races, including Tully Hill's pattern race win. So Mystical Power won the Moscow Flyer that we've just seen Sober win. And if we flick over to the next years, not quite as so many bodies in the race for Willie in preceding years. But again, I suppose the point I was tentatively suggesting to you is that if we're going to have a major player, a known player from Cheltenham in the Supreme, we'd have seen it in a graded race already. Or we might yet see it at the DRF, but we've seen it.
Yeah, won the Moscow Flyer. Sober was 20-1. I think Salvatore Mundi went favourite after winning it last year. And you learn, yeah, whatever happens at the DRF will shape that graph. I think we showed that graph a bit early, actually.
Do you?
We won for a show in 2 weeks' time.
OK. I suppose what I'm wondering is, at Cheltenham, is there a feeling that what you're expecting to see on the track isn't quite working out at the moment?
I'd say Leader Daddy was a bit disappointing, so was Dr. de Menil. I would have thought Mighty Park was good enough today. He won a long way. It was a no-ish kind of race, but he won a long way from a horse that we thought was OK in Rock Dino. So, yeah.
I'm thinking about Stembacco as well.
He was disappointing, up to 2.5. Sortudo, that race run a bit differently, maybe not. But yeah, look, I suppose you can't have a Supreme horse every year, Lydia.
No, you can't. That's kind of my point, really. Yeah. Mighty Park, you mentioned Mighty Park, who won a procession at Fairyhouse today. I almost expected there to be sort of trumpets and marching because he was sort of given, you know, 5 lengths at the start. I thought everyone would sort of march behind him.
I suppose when you look at it, he beat a horse who's rated 134 by 38 lengths, so that's 164 plus 8, ran to 172.
Yeah. Like you, I'm not taking literally on this occasion. Now,
that's the way handicapping works these days, so that's what you're onto.
Everybody wants me to, and I mean everybody, so if that doesn't include you, just pretend. Fou de Trois, everybody wants to know about this horse, which is unraced as yet for Willie Mullins, has run once, finished third at Auteuil, replete with hood and tongue-tie, the one time he's seen a hurdle. Yeah,
he's working away at home. He's a nice horse, probably wants a trip.
OK, so quotes of short as 14-1 for the Supreme seem to be optimistic.
I won't be parting anyway, or taking part, I mean. That's
Fou de Trois. Let's wrap up some others. Fire warning for Nicky Henderson and Rich Ritchie, who won at Rio this week.
Stayed well to my eye, anyway. Looked like a stare. A horse with a nice future. Be 2.5, I would have thought, if you were thinking about Cheltenham with him.
I thought he looked like a stare as well. And 30 minutes earlier, Sober Glory, who was beaten by Hurricane Pat at Sandown when he couldn't dominate, dominated over the course and distance in a 9.5 second quicker time and carrying £6 more.
Yeah, and as you said, dominated and got to dominate, but probably franked Uncle Pat more so than himself.
Yes. Mossy Fen Road, did you catch up with him at Chepstow?
No.
Of Harry Derham's? You know, there was something very likeable about that, and Harry was talking about running in the Supreme, and he was just far too good for his field. I quite liked him. So I've brought it round to British racing. We're going to carry on in that vein with the Grade 1 that we had over Christmas, the Formby, which was run sans hurdles in the main.
Yeah, the sun's shining down the straight. That's the direction the entry points. Idaho Sun sat in towards the back, and we knew my daddy Paddy was going to be held up. He'd been held up at Carlisle and at Haydock, and he's a little bit keen. He was on their tails as they ran away from the stands into the back straight, and he's a slick jumper. So, look, the hurdles out definitely inconvenienced him. Look, some people were saying he was dropped in too far. I don't think he was. I think here at the last hurdle with 4.5 furlongs to run, he's absolutely close enough if he's good enough. Now, he does get momentum out of jumping, but Idaho Sun, to be fair to him, had run well in the Cheltenham bumper last year, and I think he outstays my daddy Paddy. I honestly don't see the logic in the betting for the Supreme. I don't know why Idaho Sun is longer than my daddy Paddy, because I know the 2 hurdles were out, but when you get a stiffer track and a stiffer gallop, I think it suits the winner every bit as much as it does the runner-up.
He's also got Cheltenham form, hasn't he? I mean, while we're talking about the champion bumper, he was 6th in it last season, and I think he's got a lot of stamina in his pedigree, and my impression then was that he was staying on all the time as well.
That was a tactical run affair, that Cheltenham bumper last year, but it's thrown up a lot of horses that are coming back in novice hurdles this year, which is what you want to see. But I know if Idaho Sun was mine, I'd be happy that I would confirm that form with my daddy Paddy. OK,
interesting. And obviously Dan Skelton feels completely the way that he would. I mean, obviously he would say this, wouldn't he? But were the hurdles in, he would have won. I thought the Last Cloud ran pretty well for a return to handicap company back in 3rd. I thought he stuck to his task really well. This Saturday we've got a key stepping stone towards the Supreme, and hopefully Nico de Boinville will be riding Old Park Star. He's set to return at Windsor tomorrow after having been stood down. He's got that concussion test. He's 4-6 favourite Old Park Star, who is now thought of by Nicky Henderson following the turning over of Age Act of Innocence at Newbury. This horse is now thought of as the Supreme horse, Act of Innocence more the Turner's horse. Hurricane Pat, who we've mentioned already, had Sober Glory a long way behind him. He's 15-8 second in. Soldier Reeves was second to him, 12-1. And Japetus, who's unbeaten in 2 starts for Nicky Richards and Brian Hughes at Market Raisin. He's 12-1. And there they are. Did you have any thoughts on this?
I liked Old Park Star. I liked Hurricane Pat. I think that'll be a good race. I'd say Japetus has a bit to improve, but I did think the other 2, they look decent. I know your Old Park Star race probably wasn't that deep a race at Cheltenham, but I liked the way he did it.
He quickened away, didn't he?
Yeah, he lengthened and galloped, and plenty to like about him.
I really like the way that Hurricane Pat finished out his race at Sandown, because that's not an easy track to finish impressively in that way. It's
not, and most horses go by the line, jockeys sit up and they break back into a trot.
Yeah.
I did like the way he went by the line.
Potentially, Noel Feely Racing Syndicate, the owners of Hurricane Pat, could have 2 for the Supreme. They've got Baron Noir as well, who went at Kempton also. Let's move up in distance to the Turners. We've mentioned plenty of the horses that might feature in this race in passing already. It's the 2.5 mile Grade 1 that opens day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. No Drama this end is the 7-2 favourite, and big prices the rest as people try and work out which horses are going to go where. What did you make of No Drama this end's win in the Cello?
I thought he did it impressively enough, Lydia. He did it with the minimum of fuss. I loved him in Cheltenham when he made his debut. This is him in Sandown where he won in a common canter, and look, he looks a really exciting horse going very much in the right direction, and yeah, look, I thought he did exactly what he had to do in the Cello.
Did you discern any improvement? Because I thought I did. You never know whether you're projecting this onto a horse that you know is talked about as good and just impresses you. But there was a fluency to his jumping, and there was a professionalism to the way he went about it that I really liked.
Yeah, he has definitely come down a fraction out of the air. He would each run over hurdles, and he's becoming more of a hurdler. But ultimately, if you watched him the first day in Cheltenham, the height he gets, he's going to be a chaser as well. But he's learning his job, and he's improving with each start.
OK. I quite like Clint Madrick, who was second in the cello as well. I'd love to see him in the EBF final at Sandown on Imperial Cup Day. He did really well, despite being really raw in second. You've mentioned already the Ballymore at Naas in passing. I'll sort that beat Sortudo. What do you make of it?
Yeah, and it was his fourth start over hurdles. I'll start that. It was the fourth time he's delivered. Sortudo sat in. He was wearing a hood. Good gallop early in the contest. I'll sort that for all his experience. A little clumsy at the first. He was better at the second, even though he pecked on landing. And the third hurdle was probably his best jump of the race, where he came a little bit out of Declan's hands. Now, he went a decent gallop in front. This was the fourth last hurdle, but he does do that when he's jumping. He can be a little bit awkward, and Declan quickened out of the back. The Jiggleston horse couldn't follow him, and neither could St. Bacco, and that probably left Sortudo a little far back with switch from Diesel, and they had plenty of running to do to catch up with him. And as they headed toward the second last hurdle, should have been Declan Queally, after missing what was the last, and I'll sort that, is getting going again, and without the jumps in the straight to not slow him down, he ground it out. I thought it was a good performance, but I did think watching him, he was an Albert Bartlett horse, more so than a Ballymore horse, and I think Sortudo wouldn't want to be going any further.
It's interesting, because going into that race, I was worried about a sort of stiff, heavy ground, 2.5 mile for I'll sort that. But I mean, the romance of it is amazing, isn't it? It's great
Magic.
For Declan Queally,
yeah.
And the price
and his
of the
father
horse.
as well, and
yeah.
Magic. And look, he was very good in a maiden hurdle at Listowel. He jumped out and made all. He then won in Galway, won in Navan after that. Like, he's a very good horse, but his jumping is only okay, and I think he'll want to be going further to cope with that.
OK. You've mentioned the Albert Bartlett. You Proof has been backed for it after his win at Limerick.
Yeah, and he won well. Danny rode him, sat in behind. He jumped really, really well, You Proof. There was one of Henry's just in front of him, King Bucks, who was well fancy, but all the way Danny was trying to slow You Proof down. You can see him going by the horse in maroon. To every jump, he went at it. Now, I'm not saying he's Final Demand, but it was reminiscent a bit of Final Demand in a maiden hurdle last year, because he kept going to the hurdles and making ground. That was his only mistake, was middle hurdle up the back, or the third last hurdle, switches to the inside to join the horse in front, jumps it and stayed at it well. He had been working well, and he delivered on the track to beat King Bucks, but I love the way he jumps, and he looked like he'd settle well enough if he was to go Albert Bartlett.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I was worried about whether he might settle for the Albert Bartlett. We can have a look at the betting for that. It didn't seem to me that he won that through stamina. He kind of won it through ability,
a
class.
change of foot, yeah, or a turn of foot or ability, yeah. But like the one, and I don't know what the Queallys will do, but I do think the way he jumps, I'll sort that would be the one for me there if he was to step up and trip.
OK. And of course, the horse of Henry's that You Proof beat there, Kingsbuck, is it? That
Kingsbuck,
was behind No Drama This End, wasn't it, at Cheltenham? I still quite like that horse. I still like
he's a
it.
lovely looking horse too.
Yeah, OK. So that is our review of the novice hurdling action over the festive period. You'll have noticed in passing that a couple of the key races were affected by omitted hurdles due to the low sun, which gives an opportunity for Ruby to analyse it.
And I suppose what you're analysing here is the effect that hurdles that are taken out on the day have on a race, and more so have on the opinion you have on a race. So you can see here, this is my daddy Paddy, who when he's jumping at Haydock, when he lands, you see the momentum jumping gives him, and again here at the last hurdle, he quickens up, he lands and gets momentum. So in a race where there's no second last and last hurdle, that's going to affect him. Whereas I thought that who won the Lawlers, you saw him there at the second last and Navan making it, you see him here again at the last and Navan, and he makes a mistake. You put the two hurdles back into Naas, and that probably changes the race for him too. But it also changes everyone's opinion of the race as regards having a bet or looking at a race beforehand. You analyse a race beforehand, you look at it, but if you realise there's going to be 4 or 5 less jumps in the race, it's a completely different race. I don't know what the answer is, but it's definitely an issue in racing.
I don't know how you resolve that issue.
I don't either, but it is definitely, we're going about wanting 48-hour declarations and 72-hour declarations. We don't even know how many jumps they're going to jump in some of the races.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to mention the J word. Everybody stand by. Juveniles.
This won't take long.
It's time. It's time. We're into the new year. It's time to talk about juveniles. We've had a grade 2, for goodness sake, and it was won by Narciso Has at Leopardstown over Christmas.
And he was good too. Danny lined him up, booked him out. He'd had a run at Fairyhouse. Competitive race. I like Narciso Has. Actually raced down and attacked the first hurdle. They were going a pretty decent gallop every step of the way. Grey Horse took over quite early in the contest, but Danny was keen on using Narciso Has's stamina. Jumped back up sides at the fourth last, landed in front at the third last, and then when he faced across to the second last and he jumps it, he sends Narciso Has off the back of the second last hurdle when Leopardstown's at its widest, and this fella opened up. I really liked him. He's a really strong stayer. He's a good jumper. He improved from Fairyhouse. Adrienne in the red cap, who's going to run on and finish second, was a little bit closer to him at Fairyhouse, and she ran past some tired horses. But I think the new track in Cheltenham is made for this fella. He sets a good standard, but it will be a good rematch with the filly of Gordons, who beat him at Fairyhouse Mange 2.
Yes, and there is Mange 2 Ruby, third in at 8-1. Narciso Has and Proactif ahead of her in the betting. I'm glad you mentioned Adrienne, because I did think she ran well. She was a little bit too far back at the point that Narciso Has kicked, and although she's a maiden on the flat, she clearly has ability over hurdles.
Ted will be happy with you, Lydia.
I think she has. Anytime, Ted. And North Shore as well, I thought was quite... it was a good enough debut. I like the way he stuck to his task from the last. I'm not talking about him in Triumph Hurdle terms, but stuck to his task from the last for Gavin Cromwell, on debut for Gavin Cromwell. You mentioned the rematch with Mange 2, because Narciso Has and Adrienne met her at Fairyhouse in November. Yeah,
and Mange 2 had the benefit of a running down Royal. And this race, the horse at the very back in JP's second colours unseats here at the first, and when it gets loose, it then ran by all the others, and this race was actually run quite strongly in the first half mile. The loose horse set them all off. Mange 2 settled better than she had done at Down Royal. Narciso Has was having his first start, and it's plain to be seen Willies are improving for a run, but this filly came with a big reputation. Better jump at the last seal the deal for her, and that'll be a really interesting rematch at the DRF between these two. She had a huge reputation. I think he's improved a good bit, and that'll be one of many exciting clashes in Leopardstown in 10 days' time.
Very much so. The hood has really helped her. She wore it in France. She didn't have it for Down Royal, and that was quite a big amount of improvement she found between those two starts for Gordon.
Big time, yeah. And Gordon's horse has improved a lot from the runs in Down Royal as well.
Yeah. We had another grade 2 over Christmas, and that was won by Chester Williams, who's made a great start to his training career with the improving mare Tonta Le 2. It's not a race that's really stands up in the way that it used to.
No. It's been downgraded, and don't know is it attracting the same quality of horses.
Doesn't seem to at this stage. I don't know whether we've got them. I'm going to find out a bit about it, because I've asked Ruby to package together these juvenile herders. I think it's just so he can get through them quicker.
Look, you're guessing what I'm guessing. Yeah, Bertuccio won at Limerick, was quite impressive for Sean O'Keefe on Stain Stevens' day. This is Manila Yoga winning at Fairyhouse. He has since, of course, transferred to the UK and has improved on his next start when he went there. That was him winning at Fairyhouse. Manila Study winning at Cheltenham, quickened up nicely and stays quite well as well. You had Maestro Conti then for the Skeletons, won at Kempton, and they had another one at winning at Kempton last weekend as well. That was
Precious Man.
Precious Man, reasonably impressive. And then you had Proactive beating Macho Man at Fairyhouse yesterday, wasn't it? Thought he stayed really well too, but Quinta del Lago, who was third there, was a lot closer to Proactive than he was Narciso Has.
Yeah, I said, we discussed this earlier, didn't we? I thought it was the good ground at Leopardstown as compared to the soft ground there allowed Quinta del Lago to sort of get back into the race, having been outpost, where it couldn't do that at Leopardstown. That's what I thought, anyway. Proactive, you felt that Proactive looked like a stayer. I thought the runner-up did, Macho Man, but you felt the same about Proactive.
I didn't. I'd still have Narciso Has.
OK. Bertuccio, jumping an asset?
Yeah, went really soft ground in Limerick, jumped really well. I'd still have Narciso Has.
And was your eye not drawn to
We've talked enough about juveniles.
One more thing. So I'm going to push it. I push it. That's what I do. It's what I do. Winston Jr. Was your eye not drawn to Winston Jr. behind Minella Study for something like that?
Yeah, but unless he settles.
Fred Winter. I know he's got to settle. But
big time, but God, he was some free, wasn't he? I went back and watched it because I did think I only saw the end of the race live, and I did think he was eye-catching. But when I went back and watched the first part of the race, I was thinking, till you learn to race, best of luck to you.
Yeah, he is going to have to go through the race properly. He also got squeezed up on the stand side rail Juvenile as well. So that's the Juvenile hurdlers. That's 2 only fools and horses referenced so far this series of Road to Cheltenham. I can't promise another one. Ruby's puzzled look makes me feel that that's one for either my generation / British viewers. Not sure. Look it up. Right, novice chasers. We are going to start off by looking back at the 3-mile division, and the place to start is Kitzbuhel. You and I had an inkling that he might come over to Britain breaking a usual Willie Mullins habit, and he was really impressive in the Quarter Star. He was really impressive in the Quarter Star. Really strong gallop early in the race. Thomas Moore the inside, Blue King the route, Kitzbuhel. They rocked down over the first 2 fences. Paul let Kitzbuhel roll along, pinged the first, wings the second, and Blue King the route doesn't quite get there behind him, landed on top of it. Now, Harry Cobden was keen not to let Paul Townend slow it down too much because Paul actually had put the handbrake on. He was clean and he had to get in Kitzbuhel. But when Paul let him roll in the back straight and he got on a good rhythm, he just put these to the sword jumping. Wendigo at the very back found Cheltenham too quick for him. Salver tried to get involved and missed the third last, but Kitzbuhel had steadied it off the bend then. Paul got another breather and it was back into a dash down the straight. He was very good at the third last, gets deep at the second last, but gets himself out of it really quickly. And when Paul attacked him at the last, he had the power to get there. It was a good performance. Did he scream Brown advisory? I don't know. Does he tell you, or look like a King George horse? I'd say, yeah, he reminded me a lot of the horse that won this year's King George, the jukebox man. Yeah, I liked how clever he was at his fences. Wendigo looked like he would want more of a galloping track than Kempton, didn't he? He did, and he looked like that in Newbury when he got back up to win as well, and he wants a bigger, stiffer test of stamina. How was the Quarto Star run vis-a-vis the King George? I have looked it up so I know the answer. They went quicker earlier. You saw they got onto the road and they got off the road, or they all-weather track, not a road, early than the King George, and they were in front at the first. But when this screen splits, it just tells you that by going hard early, Paul got in control of the race. He slowed it down because when they got to the 4th fence, the King George is not as far behind, and when they get around into the home straight, the King George at the last fence first time round is actually in front of the Quarto Star. So the King George was running an even 30. Paul was up and down the gears on Kitzbuhel. It ended a couple of seconds slower, but it was a good tactical ride from the front by Paul, and he slowed it down where he needed to. And you get to do that when you get to the front. How interesting. That really does add grist to your mill about that horse being ideal for Kempton coming back in 12 months' time. But he's also quite adaptable, isn't he? Oh, he is, and he's still a relatively young horse. But he could be running into a certain Final Demand at over 2 mile 5 at the Dublin Racing Festival. Final Demand repeated his victory at Limerick from 12 months earlier. Same track, I mean. Same track, yeah. Probably not as maybe an eye-catching performance. Very good at the first, and he shows he can do it both ways. He can stand back, he can get in close, he has loads of power and he's brave at times. Gold wasn't following him. Gold Dancer, and Jimmy Desai made a mistake in the first in the back straight, and he was under pressure already there under Danny. When he makes a mistake at the third last, that rules him out. But maybe I was watching this live and I was thinking when they got down the hill, and Jimmy or Western Walk and Gold Dancer here get up to Final Demand, I'm thinking, that's not what's right. Going on? Yeah, just for a moment. Now I know when you jump back in and you get to the second last, it's all over. But to be honest with you, I kind of thought that they'd never even get into the race with Final Demand. He's gone, he's won, he's done it with the minimum of fuss. He's shown us that he's a brilliant jumper again, and I've no doubt he'll be a better horse at the DRF and a better horse again at Cheltenham. I still think he's a horse I would love to own, but I don't think we'll ever look back on that and say it was his greatest performance. No, more vulnerable over 2.5 at the DRF than he's going to be over an extended 3 at Cheltenham for the Brand Advisory, surely? Possibly, but I love him as a jumper, Lydia, and you just get in the right rhythm in the back straight in Leopardstown. 7 of them in a line there. 6, sorry. Keep going. Yeah, point taken. I'm going, who's coming? The way he goes, though, I think is perfect for the Brand Advisory. Yeah, ideal for it. Telling anyone anything they don't know, because he's been favourite pretty much from the moment he won the Turners of last year. Right, let's look at the mare, the big Westerner, who also won at Limerick in Grade 2 company, beat Jade Grugy. She did, yeah, and I was a little surprised that Jade Grugy jumped out in front of the big Westerner, actually, because I think the big Westerner wants every yard of the trip, but
I love what she does. And to the fences, watch her opening the gap on Jade de Grugy. She loves jumping. This mare won. You talk about horses, you're on about talk to talk. He doesn't run to a hurdle. This mare runs to her fences, and she got a lot of ground in the air. Now, I was a little surprised, maybe down off the hill, Jade de Grugy revved up with Danny, and he got beside her heading to the second last and made it competitive for the big Westerner. I'd say whatever chance, maybe it would have been to mug her, but ultimately the best mare has gone and won the race. She's a fabulous jumper. Be interested to see what Henry does with her or where he goes with her after this, but I'd say she's a pleasure to ride, and it was a pretty decent performance. We know Jade de Grugy is a good, decent hurdler, but this mare stays really well, and Jesus, fences are made for her.
Both you and Andrew Blair-White were making the case for her being a brand advisory type rather than messing around with 2-5 for the Mayor's Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. I totally agree.
I think she's all stamina myself.
Isn't she? Yeah, she really is.
And she's a really good jumper.
How much stamina does Cocktail Divan have?
Look, well, you can only go on form. And look, Henry will think one thing, and Robert Power and maybe Dara O'Keefe, who we'll ask next week what he thinks. But
oh, you've let the cat out of the bag there.
He's a really good jumper. To me, he didn't stay in Punchestown. He travels strongly, he jumps brilliantly, but to be honest with you, this was 2-5, beats Kiss, Will and Shuffle the Deck. But I would think that, I don't think he stays. I think actually the way he jumps, travels and attacks, he could be coming back in trip, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. And also that was in some ways a non-race in terms of there being anything that was capable of making it a race with him.
Well, I think the way he travels and jumps, the pace he has, and he was that way in Punchestown when the King's horse beat him, and he was always trying to be slowed down to get the trip and slow down to get the trip. Like, he has a huge attribute is he likes to gallop and attack, and going up in trip, you're nullifying that.
Should be going Arkle, not brand advisory?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll find out plenty in the Ladbrokes over 2 mile 5 at the DRF, you would think. This is the brand advisory betting. Final Demand, still favourite. Romeo Coolio, we'll come to him. Gordon said he wouldn't rule it out. The brand advisory, 3 miles, 6-1. The Quarter Star winner, Kitzbuhel, is 8-1. The big Western of the Mare is there at 10-1. And Cocktail Divin, about whom we both have stamina doubts, is 14-1. Wendigo, likely to run well in that kind of contest, is 20-1. Really unfortunate in the Albert Bartlett last year. Got clipped heels on the bend and would have finished, I think, at least 3rd in the Albert Bartlett. Right, let's move on to Cade Dorothy and his performance at Fairyhouse. Yeah,
he's in there next in the betting and in around 20-1. Obviously, he had run into Kitzbuhel at Punchestown, booked out here with Wingman, Fishery Lane is behind him. And even though he wasn't brilliant there, he's probably a better jumper of a fence than he was a hurdle, Cade Doughty. Now, when he gets in to shorten, he definitely goes to his left. He's more noticeable up here. He was left at that one. At the ditch where he was spot on, he was long, he goes good and straight. Third last fence here, Mark asked him a question. He was straight. Now, second last fence, like, he did that a lot over hurdles. He's nearly landing hind end first there, and he gets himself out of it again at the last with a decent jump. He stays well. There's times you looked at him in races and thought, wow, and then there's times you look at him, you think he's laboured.
This was the latter.
This is here, whereas he probably looked a better horse against Kitzbuhel and Punchestown. But you know there is a big engine in there, and he'll probably be a better horse going the other direction.
So, left-handed, what else unlocks it? Is he grade 1?
I don't know. I wouldn't say he's not grade 1, but as a novice, it'd be a big jump into a grade 1 in open company for him, but as a novice, he may well be. It is a pretty hot division. I wonder what better ground suit him. That was tacky, tacky ground at Fairyhouse on New Year's Day. Let's move on to, this is a horse I really like, Capuchy Pike. I wouldn't quite go so far as to say he's a giant killer, but he certainly slayed horses that were expected to beat him. He did, and he slayed a 1-8 shot in Thurles. The Enabler missed the second. Predator's Gold winged on down the hill. Predator's Gold was attacking his fences. Capuchy Pike mixed the ditch at the bottom of the hill here, and you're kind of thinking, oh, is that him going to fall off the back of it? But Danny just coasted along behind him. Predator's Gold out jumped the Enabler, the first one, the second one down the back. The Enabler jumped back by Predator's Gold, and they were pouring it on a little bit in front. Predator's Gold grabbed at the ditch. They all queued up heading for the third last. But watch Pure Steel here to Jacob's Ladder, and even on landing, whatever about the nod, look at the difference in ground there straight away on landing. But I did think Danny was brilliant here. He never panicked on Kapija Pike, opened him up at the back of the second last, gets him running towards the last hurdle, pauses for a little second here till he sees or has a little look for a stride, waits till he spots one, and then goes after, rides him all the way in, pinged it and quick and nicely to outdo Jacob's Ladder and Predator's Gold for speed. To be honest, Lydia, he went 2.5 as a novice hurdler last year. He then went to Aintree and Paul Rodham and he ran over 3 miles. I don't think he stayed that day. And I'm not sure, does he have the speed for 2? I wonder, is he going to end up in Fairyhouse or 2.5 at Aintree? Is that ultimately going to be his trip? But look, he's a very fun horse for his owners. He's 2 from 2 over fences and he was good the other day. You think he could be an Arkle?
Yeah, I'd be inclined to give it a spin, I have to say. I mean, I know he was showing a turn of foot against stayers, though. I definitely agree with that. But nonetheless, I would be. I mean, he's really lightly raced as a novice hurdler. Don't think we've got a handle on fully what he is. Clearly taken to fences really well.
Skylord beat him in the maiden hurdle at Cork, didn't he? He looked that day like he wanted to be going a little bit further. Ultimately, he went right up in trip or up in grade last year. He didn't stay. So I don't know. I'm a little less convinced.
OK, he'll probably get an entry, won't he?
You think?
Sky is up, last time I looked. Right, while we're talking about horses making races, Kopek de Bordes, who has had minor surgery to remove a chip. The plan is to get back for the Irish Arkle at the DRF. Is he going to make it, do you know?
Well, he has to make it. Well, he doesn't have to make it, but that's the only race there is for him in Ireland. So if he doesn't make the DRF, the next race for him to run in is the Flying Bolt at the very end of November, which is, I think, 10 days. February, sorry, 9-10 days before the Arkle. So the only other race for him to run in Ireland is actually too close to the festival. As a novice, I couldn't see him running in the Red Mills over 2.5 or something like that. So it's the Irish Arkle, or he goes to Cheltenham on the back of 1 run over fences.
It'd have to be like Western Warhorse.
Thanks, Lydia. He's more like Well Chief.
We could agree on Well Chief. Right, so that has implications for all sorts of things, has knock-on effects. The Irish Arkle looks very different if Kopek de Bordes doesn't get to the church on time. Let's have a look at the key 2-mile novice chase over Christmas, the racing post-novice chase. And Irish Panther gave Romeo Coolio a right fright.
He did, and it was a great race to watch. Reinstated after being removed the year before. Western Cove booked out in front and made a good gallop. July Flower, Irish Panther down the inside. Change of tactics in Salvador Mundi, but ultimately he got the same result. I thought Romeo Coolio, I kind of expect him to jump a little better than he did. July Flower here out jumps him at the first fence in the back straight. When I watched him in Fairyhouse, I thought it was an asset to him, but coming down a trip for the first time, he was just a fraction slower than the others in the air. Irish Panther has improved no end. Now, Irish Panther was second to Factifile in the bumper one time, and pings the second last. Westport Cove is gone at that stage, but off the bend here, you're thinking, right, Jack switches outside July Flower. Romeo Coolio is going to explode and get to Irish Panther. But to be fair to Irish Panther, he quickens up, flies the last, and even though he pecks a little bit, doesn't lose a whole lot of momentum, and it takes Romeo Coolio the length of the straight then to get by him. I think the runner-up was on an absolute cracker and pulled a long way clear of July Flower. July Flower's form was good from the UK in November time, and you think that the Arkle is a furlong and a half shorter than this race. I don't think the runner-up will be a mile away in the Arkle in March.
Well, he's also got a champion chase entry, and you can understand that given the age he is, why the Hearties might be thinking, I might give the big one a go.
I'll take on Marine National and he'll let Tomp.
I know.
And maybe Majborough or whatever else, or I'll take on possibly Romeo Coolio, Lulamba, horses like that. I know which race he'd be running if he was mine.
I know, it's the Coney Gree argument, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you have a horse of that age.
Possibly, yeah.
Romeo Coolio's got the Ryanair entry, but Gordon Elliott suggesting that he, like just what you said, run novices against novices. So he's got 2 miles, 3 miles, or somewhere else.
Or somewhere else, yeah.
Somewhere else?
Ferry has an entry.
Well, I kind of think that's where I'd go if I was him, because that would be absolutely ideal. Let's hop to Kempton and have a look at Mambo number 5. Talking about a horse that was outpaced much of the way in the Wayward Lad.
Yeah, and obviously Sam Thomas's lump sum was ruled out for the season today. And the Lamb just Sean Bowen or James Bowen even lucky to stay on there. Mirbad jumped up to the front. Now this never looks likely for Mambo number 5. The horse in front ping this ditch and he pops it, and he jumps the first down the back here, out to his left, doesn't get overly high. Next fence kind of doesn't really get off the ground and lands on all fours, just trots out through it. I think Barney Clifford needs to put some birch back in the fences in Kempton. This the third last, you think he can't win from there, fourth last even, but by the time we get to the third last, he's the one that's starting to rally down the outside. Did go a little bit to his left at times in the back straight, but he does look like a stayer, and to me, we always thought about horses not handling Kempton. I think he's a horse that didn't handle it, but still managed to win.
Yes.
Which you have to like, don't you?
Very much so, and he's only 4 where he was then, and he looks like the chaser, and he went from struggling to winning it very, very quickly.
Yeah, just switched it on there around the bend. Maybe that's more reflective of the opposition, I'm not so sure, but
I think
still,
it
probably is, but still think that he went and got the job done.
Very much loads to like about Mambo number 5, and Ben Pauling is hoping that he is an Arkle horse. Now, you've packaged a few others together for me in this division.
Yeah, Cargeese gets in, obviously won a beginner's chase at Leopardstown at Christmas. Again, it wasn't a strongly run race, but she definitely was better than she had been at Cork prior to that. I put this fella in for you, Lydia. You caught your eye, Meet Me by the Sea.
I love him.
You've been impressed with him on a couple of occasions, and he won at Ayr during the week. And then you have Steel Ally winning at Carlisle, obviously won at Ascot, and this is a good performance. Any novice, that was a graduation chase, and obviously the Yard have had a bit of hard luck this week with lump sum, but there's the bet in Lulamba. He was really good in the Henry VIII. Where's he going to go next? Newbury probably, is it?
Game Spirits, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Steel Ally won the Noel Chase, beats a decent field and did so in very good fashion at Ascot just before Christmas. And Meet Me by the Sea, I'm not talking about Arkle for this horse, but I love the way he jumps. And Ben Jones was talking about going up into it potentially for the Jack Richards over 2.5 miles, but I think his jumping could even keep him in a Grand Annual.
Cool. Yeah, possibly. Is he enough runs?
No, he'd have to get busy. So I think it'd probably be Jack Richards. And certainly from the way that Ben Jones was talking, yeah. I thought the idea probably was the Jack Richards. He was talking about going up and trip when he goes into handicraft. I like the way he jumps, so solid for a novice. Right. That's it. So those are our thoughts. We're about to usher Josh back in and hear yours.
Ruby, if you're Paul Townend for a day, are you lobbying hard to get Gaelic Warrior into the Ryanair and try and ride the two of them?
Have you no doubt I would be.
Yeah.
Whether it would work or not now would be a completely different ballgame.
Josh is in the house. Josh, what are they saying out there on the streets?
The roadies have been busy, Lydia, very busy. BB London says that El Kairos and Talk the Talk both failed last time out. In the last 10 years, only the quirky Shishkin has won the Supreme with an F in his form figures. How much of an issue are fools in preparation for a Supreme?
I never thought of it, tell you the truth. And I wonder how many. I think that's a good stat, as in stat. Shishkin is the only. Shishkin is the only one has gone and won with an F. How many have tried? You need to put a bit of quantity on that, rather than you can read that one way and say, well, he's the only one. But maybe there's only 5 in the last 10 years that have even tried, and they could have been huge outsiders. So I think you can read too much into that. But you would like to see both El Kairos and Talk the Talk. I'd have more faith in El Kairos. Talk the Talk's had 3 starts and he's jumping doesn't blow me away.
4 last time out is statistically tends to be a very bad thing, doesn't it, going into the cauldron of Cheltenham? And I think a qualitative difference, like you, I kind of forgive El Kairos more than I do Talk the Talk.
And I suppose, yeah, it's different because we're going to have the opportunity to both see them again in between now and Cheltenham. John asks, the Reverend came to jumping late after a very good flat career. Would trainers do anything differently when teaching an experienced flat horse to jump in comparison to a horse that's
good question.
Simply just learning?
No, you start in the same way. You don't have to teach a good flat horse how to race. You just have to teach him how to jump. So he start over poles and build it up with his confidence from there. And look, he's in Willie Mullins, he's schooling every day, isn't he?
So no real difference?
No, not really, no. You wouldn't.
I suppose they're hardened in sort of racecraft, and that's an advantage.
Huge advantage.
Jake on Instagram says, Lydia, when reading your column last week, I got the impression you've been very impressed with No Drama This End. Paul Nicholls won the Challow Hurdle 4 years in a row before the New Lion last year, but none of them fired at Cheltenham. Is No Drama This End different to Brave Man's Game, Hermes Elenex, or is the quality of opposition lower?
I think Brave Man's Game ran pretty well. The campaign for not undervaluing what Brave Man's Game achieved in his career, I just feel like he's been kicked out of the way by Final Demand, and Final Demand hasn't even won an Open Grade 1 yet. So, and hasn't gone toe-to-toe with a Gold Cup winner like Galopin Des Champs. Anyway, I digress. What do I think? I think he just looks like a complete package, No Drama This End. I've liked the way he's shown improvement from race to race. I like the fact he got in an extra race at Sandown as well. Yeah, I was impressed. I did like the runner-up as well, but it's going to be a whole different ball game when he runs into the Irish that we've been talking about.
I know, can't wait to see that. Tom asks, Bambino Fever put it up to the boys in the bumpers last season, and I think she'll take all the beating in the Supreme. I'd love to know what Ruby thinks.
All that run the Mayor's Novice.
Do you?
I do, yeah. Mm.
Alan Keane, final question. Given JP McManus has the 1-2 in the Triumph betting, why wouldn't he avoid running both Proactive and Narciso Has against each other and take the advantage of the £7 allowance by running one of them in the Supreme?
I asked you this earlier.
Yeah, because most times you do something in life, you should learn from a lesson. And when he split Franchuk and Binocular, neither of them won.
Fakididaris also ran fourth.
He did.
Yeah.
I don't know if he won the Triumph that year, but when he split Franchuk and Binocular went Supreme, and I think it was Franchuk went Triumph. I think both got stuffed.
Okay.
Sometimes it pays to have two in one race.
And this is Willie Mullins as well. Put them in the race, they can win. Great question. Thank you very much, Josh. Some really good questions there. I mentioned that we're going to end the show by having a look ahead to the Clarence House. Just the four runners. Harry Cobden on board, John Bomber. Il était Tom coming over. Thistleask, can he step up from the Desert Orchid? And Gidley Park as well, not to be discounted, a solid performer himself.
Yeah, solid performer. Thistleask will rock along, and it'll be a much different race to the Tingle Creek, which was a crawl. At least this race will be run at a gallop.
Yeah. It's going to be a superb race. I'm looking forward to watching. We'll review it next week with our special guest. I think Ruby has already suggested if you go back, you'll work out who it is. We're looking forward to that. 10 a.m. next Thursday. Join us for that. But Josh, thank you very much for your company. Thank you for your thoughts as well, Ruby. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week at 10 a.m.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.